Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Tony Lanzafame. We're going to have our modern work presentation today. It's going to focus on e-discovery and records management, and we've got the pleasure of having Tom Moen, a cloud architect with Microsoft, delivering the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the instant message window of the session, and we'll gladly answer them as we walk through the material. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Appreciate that tremendously. I'm going to share out my desktop here and we'll get started. So in just a second, you should be seeing my desktop, and hopefully everybody can see a little session introduction.
Yep, I do see it, Tom.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for making time. We're going to be talking about advanced e-discovery today. We'll touch on records and how preservation is intertwined with e-discovery and our advanced e-discovery capabilities. And Tony, as long as you're hanging there, I think there's people in the lobby. And then if you see any questions come in the chat, or if you're not bashful, I will pause for questions, comments, concerns quite frequently. Please feel free to come off of mute and ask any questions that you might have. So with that, we've been doing these sessions quite regularly. Sometimes they focus on compliance. Sometimes they focus purely on records. Sometimes they focus on search and FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, public records request. Sometimes they focus on data protection, and today, again, our major focus is going to be on advanced e-discovery and the tools that Microsoft offers you within our suite. And we do change things. This kind of flips the model on its end, because in the old days, most e-discovery products were bolted onto some kind of archival solution, and you archived all your information off, and then you use some bolted on e-discovery search tool or other third party, and you had to export journal information from email, export information from SharePoint. The beautiful thing with Office 365 and our new connectors and other capabilities, you're going to leave that content right where it is. You don't have to move anything. You don't have to have any second, third sources of truth. You don't have to worry about being accused of willful destruction of content, spoliation. All those things go away. We did, in the month of March, record a number of these sessions, but there have been so many new features. We do monthly sprints and quarterly updates to Office 365. So a lot of new feature function capabilities that you'll see today, and a couple that I'll show you that are shipping any day now in Office 365 will be very important. And one of those in particular is the data connectors that we will have. We will make these slides available to you, and I did take our two great slides on from our Microsoft.com website. They've got great slides out there that talk about what is data loss prevention, what is sensitive information types, or what are sensitive information types, what is advanced message encryption. And I just took those what is and took it and redirected all of these links to the docs, as you can see in the screen, that point to how do I deploy. So it takes you to the service support deployment docs rather than the sales literature or information on what is customer lockbox. It takes you to the deploying customer lockbox. So the beautiful thing is that you will have these, and there's a lot of very useful information here and very frequently updated. So with that, we're going to jump right in. And the first thing we need to talk about is retention and preservation. Retention and preservation are two very important parts of any e-discovery strategy. In order to discover content, you have to have content to discover. And if that content has been destroyed or purged, you can't discover it. So within our system, We do have holds, we do have records management, we do have a file plan that you can build or import your file plan and apply that to content in Office 365. And then another important thing that we'll have in the not too distant future with our government community cloud. Our commercial cloud has had a couple of these features for quite some time, but one of them is trainable classifiers. So you can actually point content at a repository and it will tell you through artificial intelligence and machine learning what content should be labeled, and that's a trainable classifier classifying your content. There's another cool thing that within our classification labels, we basically have two types of labels, the sensitivity label and a retention label. They do two things. Sensitivity label will protect content with encryption. A retention label will preserve content with a retention policy. And again, you can have a records plan, and in that records plan, you might have something like I was working with one Department of Transportation, and they said, we purge everything every 90 days. So these can be purge policies as well. But we're going to retain that content for 90 days. And then on the 91st day of its life, we're going to get rid of it and purge that content. And you can have a disposition review, and I might show you that today. But you can see content that's coming up for disposition that should be disposed. But again, if I have a retention label, like maybe I've got a DOT contracts label, that contracts label will take precedence over this purge policy. Retention's always going to win over deletion. A more explicit policy will win over a more implicit policy. So there should be a scale here that goes from I to E, implicit to explicit. But know that these labels that are preserving content for your e-discovery and cases and matters can be intertwined or intermingled. So you can have a file plan that says keep all of this type of content for 3 years, and you can have this other stuff that says purge after 90 days, and a contract that says, we've got to keep that for 5 years or whatever the case may be. The other thing that comes into play is we can say, hey, when you find sensitive information, we also need to retain that. Or if you find retained information, we also need to protect that with a sensitivity label. So these labels can intermingle with one another or coexist. I can apply a retention label to something that's sensitive, or I can protect something that is being retained. And then above that, with Teams is so darn popular now. We went from basically 0 to 200 million users in very short order, especially with all this work from home and some of the privacy problems that our competitors have. Most folks are using Microsoft Teams like we are today for this meeting. We created Modern Office member and Modern Group location to apply these labels very specifically to Teams, Teams chat, Teams documentation. And then we do have a query-based hold, and in advanced e-discovery, we have custodian holds. So, some customers, when I'm out there talking, they do like the ability to create a query, like find everything that says flooding near the main for the water main or Main Street. If there was this flooding on Main Street, that would be a query-based hold. Find all this content and then put anything that matches that query on hold, query-based hold. The other way to hold stuff is custodial based hold, and that is Tom Moen is involved in this matter. I'm going to place Tom's mailbox on hold. So that's a custodial hold. And then we do have inactive users or departed users, and again, we can hold their content as well. Some of my customers, I've got one city that holds departed users' content for 100 years after the departure of an employee. I've got other folks who trash everything 30 days after an employee leaves. Those are probably opposite ends of the spectrum of horrific records management policies, but that's what they do, and I can't help that. So again, there are some principles. Retention will always win over deletion, as I mentioned. Longest retention and shortest deletion periods will win unless there is an explicit or an implicit policy, and explicit will always win over implicit. So I know that was a lot on records management. I'll show you where these fit on the e-discovery reference model and why the heck we're talking about records. But the important thing is that they do fit and they do apply across this e-discovery reference model that was really created to show that as the relevance of item or content increases, the volume of that content should decrease, and then we should be able to process this content from preservation to identification, collection, processing, and on into presentation. So I'm going to pause right there for any questions, comments, concerns on retention, applicability of the e-discovery reference model, or anything else that might be top of mind. And Tony, anything in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat, Tom.
Alrighty, well, I'll take silence as agreement and we will continue. So advanced e-discovery, and there are many benefits over advanced e-discovery, and I often say that, especially in the world of state and local government or federal government, especially with the unique requirements, especially with them being a litigious, a lot of requirements around Freedom of Information Act and public records requests, lot of potential for lawsuits. Advanced e-discovery is really the minimum. That should be the baseline, the floor. Our AED, you might hear me call it, but advanced e-discovery is really the tool that I recommend for our state and local government customers. Again, it does have the ability to have custodian management and communications. I can hold stuff based upon an individual user. I can communicate, or I can do a silent hold and not communicate, keep those end users in the blind, and not let them know that they're on hold, or I can communicate with them and I can escalate that communication. We have very deep crawling and indexing, where our core e-discovery product, I've seen customers with as much as 35% of their content unindexed, because it might be of a weird content type, or a cat video, or somebody's using pretty good privacy encryption outside of their content. It's usually about 1/10 of that content through advanced e-discovery. So the crawling and indexing engine are just significantly stronger, better, more impactful. They go deeper in layers of attachments. Like if I've got an email that's attached to an email, with an attachment to it, now we can virtually go, I believe that is 35 layers deep, and crawl an attachment with inside of an attachment inside of an attachment, or an email inside of an email inside of an email with an attachment. Anyway, one of those video mirrored things. We can go significantly deeper with advanced e-discovery than we can with our core e-discovery engine. The other huge thing here, and a couple of benefits, is now with these modern attachments, and I'll show this to you, that, in the old days, if I were sending an email and that email had an attachment and it had, a Word document to it, I would send that attachment in an email and I'd send it out to 5 other people. And those 4 or 5 other people would make changes to that document and send that back. And then if I didn't use review or track changes properly, I'd have to take and aggregate all of their changes back into a new version of this Word document, right? And then I had, my V1 sitting out here and my V2 out there. Well, kind of a stupid old-fashioned way of working. So today with an email, so I'll just say this is old, and today the modern way of working, and there's supposed to be an N there, but we would take that email and we would attach a document, but that document would be sitting out in OneDrive. So that file is in OneDrive, that Word document, and then what we send to these other 5 people is, whoops, sorry about that. I don't know how to make that go away. We've got these other 5 people out here, and they're editing the document in my OneDrive. They get sent a link to that. They get sent a URL. They think they're clicking on a document, and a document does open. I mean, it's transparent to the end user, but what they're opening is a document that's sitting in my OneDrive. And this is, gosh darn it, shouldn't be so close to the edge here. This is true if we are in a chat session in Teams or some other, solution out there that also integrates with OneDrive. When we chat and share a file, that file goes to our OneDrive, and then the other people in the chat are editing that file in our OneDrive. So that's called a modern attachment. And that modern attachment from eDiscovery is a pain in the neck, because you've got to find the email, you've got to find that link, you've got to go find the person's OneDrive, you've got to go find that file in their OneDrive, and then you got to bring it back. So in Advanced eDiscovery, we already understand this type of cloud attachment, and we go get that file and bring it into the review set or the working set. So we collect that and add it to the collection. I know one large agency that they had 8 people, and those 8 people had, due to this one issue primarily, had never had a week without overtime. And after they moved to Advanced eDiscovery, bazinga, that overtime was erased. I don't know of a single one of those 8 people who have had a time card with overtime in it since they moved to Advanced eDiscovery. So one great way to pay for Advanced eDiscovery is if the pain and suffering of these poor people who had to hunt down all these files, overtime bills, chances of spoliation, and other issues that might have occurred out there. So the beautiful thing here is that you do have an ability to work with all your files and folders no matter where they are. The other thing is that we do have some artificial intelligence, machine learning, that will call through your data. It will create themes. It will look at email threading and near duplicates of files, and I'll show that to you. And then finally, we do have a total review set with redaction and annotation, export, convert to PDF, all of the things that any modern Advanced eDiscovery solution should have, and we have those things. Lastly, we've got great APIs. So these are coming any minute now to GCC, Government Community Cloud. So you can have repeatable, predictable, consistent products. You can, handle things more quickly, easily, efficiently. And all this understanding Graph API is automation. It's an ability to use text PowerShell commands instead of the graphic user interface. I've got one customer who's created over 47,800 cases, and they were in commercial tenant. They didn't have any CGI or FTI data for this particular state and local government customer. So they were in commercial. They've been using the Graph API for about a year. And they created and recreated about 47,000 cases, all using Graph API instead of our wonderful user interface. I prefer that you use our interface. That's why we built it. But if you do the same thing over and over and over again, like create cases, you could create cases and add custodians to those cases in a fully automated fashion with spreadsheets and command lines. So that's a beautiful thing. I did talk quite a bit about core eDiscovery versus advanced eDiscovery. It's just important to know that advanced eDiscovery, we're covering this whole enchilada. That looks more like a burrito on the screen, but we're covering this whole enchilada of products. So, and then the beautiful thing is that a lot of these processes are automated for you. So our analytics are automated, our review is automated, processing is automated. There's a lot of nice, neat things that are automated throughout advanced eDiscovery. So with that, let's go out and we will take a look. Any questions, comments, concerns? And again, you'll get these slides. There's quite a bit of content in there. The other thing that I should mention really quickly is that if you're going, oh my God, this seems like a whole lot of stuff. I'll never, ever, ever, never, ever learn this. Know that we do have some great things for you. One of them is our Advanced E-Discovery and Audit Solution Accelerator. So this is a great guide to help you to learn best practices and key benefits of advanced e-discovery. And the thing I like most about this, I was joking when I asked if we could add a how to use the deployment accelerator guide, a guide to the guide, but there is a guide to this guide. And then we did most of these in a crawl, walk, run stages. So if you're at 100 level, 200 level, 400 level, you will see these solution accelerators being paced right for you. The other thing that we have here is a Workshop Plus for customers who have technical account managers. We do have a Workshop Plus on specifically on advanced e-discovery and case management. And these solutions are mostly hands-on labs. So these are hands-on. You do get to keep the labs for up to 6 months after completion. And you can custom tailor these. So if you don't want to spend any time on content search, because you're not going to use that, you don't want to spend any time on core e-discovery because you're not going to use that, you can say, hey, we want to spend our whole time on FOIA, Freedom of Information subject requests, and half of our time on advanced e-discovery. And then you might even want to add something in here, like I'll be talking about keyword query language. You might want to say, hey, we want to do data subject requests, advanced e-discovery, and keyword query language. So those might be your 3 topics over the day or couple of days around advanced e-discovery. So know that, yes, this is a lot to consume. There's a lot of feature function capabilities. We know that, and we've got great training documentations, and we also have some wonderful third-party tools, like Brainstorm Technologies has their quick helps and quick guides, and they have some great information for you as well. And let me just get this search done. Hopefully this will come up with our advanced e-discovery. There we go. And don't forget that those links that I had in those little, in a couple of slides that had learn more about, we've got fantastic learning and education in our support documents as well. So with that, we're going to bounce over here into our tenant. And I do not know why my little thing is going away here, because that's important for me to close down some of these tabs. Any questions, comments, concerns? Tony, anything in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat. We've got a quiet audience today, Tom.
All right, a little bashful.
Yes.
All right. So, and let's go out here. I think I talked a little bit too long there. So I apologize. So I'm going to bounce into our Security and Compliance Center. And the one thing that I mentioned is this keyword query language. There's great documentation on this. Of course, you can use the conditions in a search, but most of my customers use, and they learn and then use keyword query language. It's just a heck of a lot easier. There's all sorts of properties that we can restrict our searches or holds to with these properties. We've got operators, we've got values that we can specify, numerical values. We can look at relevant date intervals, like last modified time equals today, last modified time this year, last year, to get a year instead of picking date pickers this month, etc. There are a number of really nice capabilities there inside that tool. I mentioned some features that are coming. One of those is this trainable classifiers, and with trainable classifiers, you can actually just point our artificial intelligence machine learning at your repository, and it will come up with classifications or content that should be classified, much like our e-discovery tool puts content in these things called themes and can associate content with one another. The other thing that has been available for about 18 months in commercial is coming to GCC this month. We had to pass audits and get this certified for FTI data and federal tax information, CGIS information, HIPAA information, to be a certified compliant service, which we are. We had to certify all of these connectors. So if you are using, like some folks out there, this bottom one should be Zoom meetings. You're using Zoom meetings, we can still hold, we can still protect and preserve, and we can still discover those Zoom meetings. If you were using something like a Slack or ServiceNow or Salesforce, we can extend e-discovery records and holds out to those. If you're using Cisco Jabber, if you're using SMS, MMS, text messaging, you want to connect to all your cell phones in your organization, we can grab those text messages and again hold, discover, and protect those messages. So any day now connectors will show up in your tenant. This did ship in the April sprint, but they are being rolled out tenant by tenant. So classify content and find content that should be classified, connect to content outside of Office 365, and then protect that. The other nice thing that's coming is our endpoint DLP, being able to protect endpoints and block USB ports or Bluetooth applications or file paths, etc., from end users. So being able to manage that a little bit more efficiently, effectively in Office 365. So 4 huge key things coming really soon now. And then the thing that's been here available for quite some time, you will see some changes, like for some reason we changed the word search to collections. And one of the reasons we changed that word from search to collection was that we can create a standard collection, and then we can add, when we're into our collection, add new data sources. And that data source could be new custodians, or they could be these connected to locations. So we can add new data sources and then collect that information that we want through our keyword query and conditions and get that done. Once we've collected, we've notified, or maybe we haven't notified, we do have our communications for putting these custodians on hold. We do have our query-based holds over here that I can, again, copy my collection, my search query, paste it into the holds, and then say everything I have searched for, I want to hold, or everything in this particular collection I want to put on hold. So you can do that, or you can, again, have custodians, and these can be teams like our legal team or finance team, plus our individuals here. So we can have teams of individuals or individuals, and then we can determine which of their content or what of their content do we want to place on hold. We can release somebody from that. We can see if there's been custodial activity. We can update the index on this user. So very important features. We always hide things under 3 little buttons, the ellipses, or anything that looks like a gear. If you're looking for something, and it's probably the most important thing you're looking for, Microsoft has probably hid it underneath a gear or a ... So look there first. That's a little tip from your Uncle Tom. So from there, you're going to create your collections. And when we create collections, we can go out and look at statistics. I can review a sample of this data, or I can take actions on this and edit this collection, delete the collection, refresh the estimates, export as a report. So I can produce a report that I want to give to somebody, or I can copy this collection and use it in another case or another matter. You will see your data sources here, and you do have search statistics on estimates of the content, where are the locations, how much data is this by volume, and what's the condition of this report, like where are the primary contributors of that. And you do have a full condition report there. Top locations is really nice because you might cruise through here and go, oh my god, most things are 10, 20, 30. Oh my gosh, Nestor Wilkie is in this case, one of my custodians, 130 items. But I might find somebody else in here that has, this SharePoint site with 527 items. We want to make sure to place that site on hold. Or Lydia or Lynn here. Lynn has 100 items. She's not a custodian. Maybe I better add Lynn and Adelaide Vance to our custodian list here. So that's really nice. And then you can get a review and preview and sample this search to see if the search items are what you desire. And then lastly, we can add that search to a review set. So this search, this is going to discover and find our content, our information. We can have multiple searches in here as I do. We could add all of these to a single review set, or I can add these to individual review sets, or I could add, I'm going to take this one, and this one, and add them to a review set. So you can add content to a review set. So that was one of the items that we can have here as well. And then these holds and communications I mentioned, we do have a hold notice, and that hold notice can be sent out to people. We can see, who's acknowledged or who hasn't acknowledged that. If they haven't acknowledged this, we can resend. There is a initial hold notice, and you've got your acknowledgement link in here to acknowledge this. You've got a portal link. Why am I on hold? Who issued this? What date did they issue this? And then we can have an issuance, a release, a reissue. If they haven't responded, like in this case, I can remind them to respond, or I can escalate to their manager. And then again, I can select my custodian. So if I do want to keep the finance team and Alex Wilbur in silent hold, I can do just that. So again, if I wanted to keep Irv in the blind and send no hold notice to him, I could do that as well. So this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then again, I'll cancel that hold notification. We didn't make any changes there. I should point out that there are some settings here, like our case information. I did mention that you can automate this with the Graph API and kick out, create a case number, describe this case. I didn't really mention permissions here, but one of the beautiful things about our solution is that maybe this case, like for example, I might be working in the Department of Corrections, and I might have people at the state capitol in the Department of Corrections, and they do have an ability to RMS decrypt content. They do have an ability to do case management, to retain content, to place holds, to audit and review the audit logs. They might have all of these capabilities, but I might have people in the institutions themselves in the Department of Corrections that just have to review content maybe. So I can copy this role, which I did in this case, and then created another role and only gave them 4. So that other, DOC main, they had hundreds of permissions, including RMS decrypt and exporting content. Here, these folks, can't export content, and if content is encrypted and they don't have rights to it, they cannot decrypt that content. It will not be presented to them. It won't be crawled. It won't be indexed to Cameron, myself, or Megan. So as we search for content, decrypted content is going to be eliminated from this case because we don't have RMS decrypt capabilities. It will be presented and then available for preservation to these other folks because they do have RMS decrypt capabilities. But I might need somebody. So us DOC folks are here editing this, and I did show this tailspin. So you can add outside people. I added myself from another demo account here. So I can add my guest users. Maybe the Brian Johnson is our top hot attorney. I'm a paralegal working for that firm or a different firm or a consultant or contractor. You can add individual users to this case. More importantly, I love this feature. I could add that DOC, like maybe somebody in institutions does have to be involved in this matter. I can add by role. by that permission assignment that I gave, I can add anybody who has this role access to this case. So again, I might have 47,000 cases out here in advanced e-discovery. When I come to Microsoft, compliance.microsoft.com, I'm only going to see those cases that I have access or privy to. So I'm only going to see just those cases that I have access to. From there, I was talking about these settings. The other more important settings, we can say, hey, we want to consider something a near duplicate, and you will see those in the reviewing pane in just a second. But you can set this at 100%. It's only a near duplicate when it's exactly 100% identical. Most of my customers have this down about 95%. I've got one customer as low as we can go as 40%. Believe it or not, they've got this at 45%. So if I have a 10-page document and I modify 5.5 pages of that document, in their mind, those are similar documents. So you should only have to review one of them. It seems kind of goofy, but you can do whatever you want to do. We have this thing called themes. So we'll aggregate or codify content, and we look at your content, your searches, the things you've tagged, the things you've exported, and we try to find some similarity between those. So we create these themes to make it easier for you to review stuff in a theme. You might have a theme that's, and there's another button here for automatically create a query for review. That also creates a automatic query called immaterial items, where it will look at your least used themes. It will look at content that is near duplicates. It will look at things that are just a graphic on a website in SharePoint, for example, and put those in potentially immaterial items. But you might know, based upon your using this system, anything that's in these 4 themes, we don't have to manually physically review. Again, saving you time and money, and then still, not invoking any fines or lawsuits or spoliation. You can have up to 10,000 themes. But again, when we do these themes, it's going to say, here's an email. Does it match theme 1? No. Theme 2? No. Theme 3? Yes. Theme 4? No. Theme 5? Yes. It's got to go through all those cycles. So this will add some time. So some of my customers, I think we can go as low as 4. We'll set this at a small number, but they will say automatically adjust themes to keep that processing down. And you can set this. I think the default for all my cases was set at 100. All my near duplicates was set globally at 95. You can make these changes on a case-by-case basis. You can ignore text. Like I had one agency that they used an acronym THE. Well, they don't want to catch the and the. They just want the acronym the. And you can say, hey, we don't want this in our the and the, like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. We would catch 2 thes in that, right? But we don't want to have that in our email or our themes. We want a theme potentially with an uppercase THE, but we don't want a lowercase THE. So you can add these modules, and then there is optical character recognition. You can eliminate files that are larger than X size, or and then you can use, again, high accuracy or low accuracy. I always tell everybody to start out with their cases at high accuracy if they know they have a lot of JPEGs, GIFs, GIFs in their files. Again, PDF files and TIFF files have eye filters for them, so those are OCR'd already. This is just like a speed cam taking a picture of my license plate going through a traffic light. We'll take a picture, and you would be able to type in AZP, 3 of the letters in my license plate, and pull that plate. But without OCR, you'd never find that picture of the license plate. So that's what OCR does. So those are some of the global settings. And with that, we'll just bounce into the review. Again, when I collect, I should have mentioned this too. When I move content out to a case and export this content out and send this to a, whether I'm previewing this or kicking this into a review set, that review set will get and collect my content. Like I was talking about the email attachment. If I'm doing a Outlook and I send a modern attachment in a new message, again, that modern attachment in that new message is going to be a link to my testing document in my OneDrive, a link to this document in SharePoint or Teams repository. I'm not actually uploading the file and attaching it. I'm attaching a link. So these collections, these review sets will have, will have content in them. Will have content in them that it has gone out and gathered from OneDrive, from SharePoint, from Teams, from something through a data connector, and brought them in. As I mentioned, you'll see this automatically generated for review. These are probably the most important things that you should manually review. You will see that if there's a threaded conversation, or like in this case, you will see a threaded conversation. Deborah said this, Adelaide said that, Diego said the other thing. So you will see these grouped in families, and you will see threads. Now, when I export this threaded conversation, I can say, nope, I just want the native individual chat messages. I don't want this threaded conversation view. So it's up to you to say, yes, I want discussions and chat as individual files. About half my customers like that. They don't want to see the context for some reason. The other half love conversation and what they love seeing the context. I can add the tags. If I tag my content, I can make these loose files, text files. I can replace the redacted files, and I'll show you redaction with PDFs. I do have a tagging panel, so I can say, hey, this is wholly responsive. This isn't attorney-client privilege. Some of my customers use the tagging panel for work assignment. They will assign this to Tim, but I know Tim's got that vacation coming up, so I'm going to assign this to both Tim and Sally. But you don't have to do this, and you can manage these tags. You can add new sections and manage these tags, on the fly. So the nice thing is, and this can be case by case instead of global tags. We've got threaded conversations, you've got tagging, you're seeing a review here, and I did show you that there was a query ability. So once we get into our review set, we can in fact use queries, and I just queried the word "the" to make sure I had some results here. I added some additional columns, like I did add the size, and I did add, I think I added a theme here. If I didn't, I will add the theme so you can see that I did. Good for me. So I did add the themes here, themes list. So you can see that I at one point imported about 1.8 million documents, 1.3 million emails from Enron, and it created some themes like Ken Lay, BlackBerry. There was a BlackBerry theme because of the number of times that people would tell each other, don't send this in email, use your BlackBerry. They can't search BlackBerry. So it's just, like thousands and thousands of people sending that message. So you will see the themes over here. I can sort and group by those themes. So I could say, again, if this Enron HTTP attribute theme is unimportant, I don't need to review those. I could even select all of those items and then delete those. Or again, I could come back and say, I'm going to add this to a new review set. And maybe I'm going to call this, instead of for production at the opposite end of that spectrum, I'm going to add this to immaterial items, things that I know are immaterial. Again, we can have queries here like the word "the." I'm going to sort these things by size to show you another neat capability here, that we can find things like very large PowerPoint files, and we can go into those PowerPoint decks, and you will see, I'm going to just give us a little bit more space here. So I can review this. Now I can expand the review pane. So if I'm just going to crank through these items, I can get to the next document, the previous document, next document, next document, next document. For some reason, this always needs some wacky screen resolution to do a preview on my machine, this machine. It doesn't on other machine. Here we go. So I can get through and go through slide by slide and review this content. Now, what some nefarious people like to do is they might have this graphic image here and they'll put text behind that image. I can go into my plain text view and I will see where these words are in a highlighted fashion here. And then I can go into an annotation view. So maybe that image of that camera is some trade secret, or it's budgetary information or internal information that we don't want out there. I can come in with a redaction. And I do have customers that are very clever. They use something like the blue redaction means HIPAA. So if this were, some kind of medical device, they could redact that with HIPAA. If they've got budgetary information or content that is internal to the state, city, or county, and they want to redact, they'll redact that in red. If they've got PII or content that is redacted for some other reason, they might do that in black. And I think I did change that to black. The nice thing is that I, Megan Bowen, with permissions here, I do have the ability to see through that redaction. This capability isn't there for everybody, but then I can see, oh yeah, this was redacted because it's that X-ray device. This was redacted because of the internal, and this was redacted because it's, external or PII. So you do have that redaction, and then again, you can export this content in a redacted PDF state. So you do have the ability, oops, I wanted to show that to you. You do have the ability to convert all redacted content to PDF files, and these are flattened PDF files that can't be have the redaction removed from them. I can export this content as I showed you. I can add to another review set. If I do have a couple of items, I can download those items just to my local machine to review offline if that's permitted in your organization. I don't know if it is or not. And then there are some really nice things here, like you do get a nice report on the target population. Were there any errors? And I think there was one error in here, and I'll show that to you in a second. What are the document types? What were emails? What were attached? Where are they in Exchange or SharePoint or these third-party things? What have we tagged? What was extracted? So you can see some great information. And then we can load additional information here if we have Office 365. This laptop was just found in the service bay. The old hard drive was recoverable. Maybe we used some data forensics. We could load that laptop into this review set or into any of our review sets. Maybe we have a review set that is just external last minute data. We did just find this laptop. We're going to add that laptop, the old hard drive from that laptop, to non-data to this last minute finds, or however you title that. And then again, we can edit these columns, so we can sort by and get to things very quickly and easily. We can review them in their native format. You will see family or grouped items, and you can determine, do we want to do this just for attachments like email or for Teams, Yammer, and SharePoint conversations or discussions? You can have those all threaded as well. So with that, I'll pause one more time for any questions, comments, concerns. I know I was feeding you from the fire hose today. You were seeing a lot of content here. I can look at this. If I have multiple searches in a single review set, I can go to individual results or the search profile view, which is how we searched for this content. And you can look at that content in greater detail. So with that, I think we're done. I'm happy to take any questions that might come up if anybody's less bashful. Oh, I did want to say that the processing, we had this one error, And in core e-discovery, it would just say, hey, you had 35% of your documents, and then not all the time. You will see anywhere from 5 to 35%, depending on how much video files, audio files, pretty good privacy, third-party encrypted content you have, corrupted files, that will all impact. But I do see that advanced e-discovery, the engine is just significantly better, and that drops to less than 10% or less than 1%, less than 1% of what you'd normally see in core e-discovery as errors. You'll see in advanced, if we did the same search in core, and we had 10% errors, we would have 0.1% errors in advanced e-discovery. And in core e-discovery, there's no way to fix this. We do have remediation. We can drill into this error in advanced e-discovery. And then lastly, we have these processing, and I have some jobs that I've actually stopped in re-indexing, but you can search for and find what was canceled, what was failed, what was successful. And in these successful items, like I had a customer telling me that their search in core e-discovery was taking like 48 hours. And we went in and it literally took like 4 minutes. So we went from 48 hours to 4 minutes. Never did find the issue with that. But you can see, when this, search result started, when did it start? When did it finish? In this case, 4 minutes later, adding content to a review set. Now, again, your mileage will vary if we're adding those modern attachments and all versions of SharePoint, because it's going to gather all the major and minor versions of a document and the cloud attachments to a case. So yeah, with that, I will turn it back to questions, comments, concerns.
There are no questions in the IM window, Tom.
Well, I must say, Tony, I know you've seen me do this before. I think that's a new record-setting session here. I don't believe I've ever finished with less than 5 minutes to go. So 7 minutes to go is a new record.
Right. So, with that being said, do we have a question? Oh, I got a bit of an echo. So
Actually, one if you've got it.
Okay.
So my question is this: if you do not have a retention policy for Teams IM one-on-one chats, so assuming no retention, and someone says, okay, I need to look for this information, but the user has deleted their message that they sent. Obviously, you can't delete the whole channel as you could with Skype, but they've deleted messages that they have sent. What is the retention of those messages, and do you require an E5 in order to discover those messages?
Yeah, so by default, we will keep that content. So under the old Skype technology, we basically took your conversations and put it into a new folder in Outlook called Conversation History. So that's where that content was with Skype. It wasn't too discoverable. You couldn't protect it. It just had a lot of flaws. It was also limited to a 30 meg folder size inside of Outlook. And, I attached this one PowerPoint deck is more than 30 megabytes. So my conversation history folder would have been filled. With Teams, brand new architecture, we put the Teams chat and Teams channel messages in your recoverable items folder in Exchange. It's not going into a folder in Outlook. It's going into a folder in Exchange where it can be protected, preserved, and e-discovered, and have records management policies apply to it. So you can absolutely create a label and create a retention label that applies to your Teams content. And you have that within the record or the retention labels capability of E3. So we could create a label and say apply this 90-day or a 3-day purge to every chat in Teams, and then they would be gone in 3 days And again, whether or not that comes up for disposition, you don't have to have a disposition review, but we can have a disposition review, like in my DOT 90-day. So by default, unless and the beautiful thing about that recoverable items folder in Exchange, for about 3 years now, that's been an auto expanding. So A, it's not limited to 30 meg. B, it's discoverable. C, it's retainable or protectable, and it's on the service, not in your Outlook. So that those are all beautiful features of when we moved to Teams. And again, you can create purge policies on that Teams messages or Teams chat content, and then you can have dispositions, and you will see files that were shared in a chat or chat messages, and you can review those individual items, with it, just like we did within eDiscovery. So we can look at those items and review those items inside. I keep forgetting it used to be you selected it. Now we can just click on it. And then we can either approve that disposal, we can relabel this, or we can extend it out beyond a period of time.
Okay, so if you and I are having a one-on-one chat, and I delete something in that conversation, it's going to delete it, but it will be discoverable, barring no labels and no other retention. Is it up for 7 days, 30 or?
Yeah, so I'm Megan. I can't come in here and I can't delete Joni's comment, right? I don't have a delete here, but I do have a delete for me in this Teams chat because this is my message. I'm the owner of my message, so I do have delete here. If you have a purge policy, all of these would have been gone, on 8/20, 8/30. These items would have been gone in a 3-day delete policy or purge policy. And then mine's now over 3 days as well. So all of these would be gone after 3 days. And so you can create a purge policy against Teams chat if you so desire, or you can create a hold policy, and that can be applied to a modern group location. So maybe, that Teams chat, has a 3-day. Maybe this other Teams channel or chat or team has a 1 year. So you can be specific down to the group or the members of those groups that have the chats on them. So now I'm seeing the issue that I've got here. So again, you can get very granular with these policies and say, hey, for this team, I want these to be held for a year. For this other team, I want them to be purged in 3 days.
Got you. Thank you.
You bet. What else? Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time. If there are additional questions, I'll make sure as a follow-up that we get you the slides and those other items. But if there are any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Tony or myself. Happy to help you in any way, shape, or form that we can. Thanks again.
Thanks, Tom. That was great. And thanks everyone for joining today. Take care.